Hilarious. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin are getting blasted nationally for an absurd reason. Also, they're significantly better than Arkansas.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. On today's show, we'll break down what Ole Miss fans need to watch for against Arkansas on Saturday, and on the top of that list, it's short fields allowed by the Rebels. That will be paramount in this game. We'll also talk about why this Arkansas team is statistically the best offense that Ole Miss has faced so far, and I'll give you a few keys to beating the Hogs as well. But first, we've got to address some of the absurd takes that are floating around about Ole Miss. Too many people are building narratives off of first quarter box scores, and that just doesn't tell the whole story. Make no mistake, Ole Miss is a better team heading into Saturday. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're free and available on all the podcast platforms and on YouTube. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen every day, and a big shout out to insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here, and visit the FanDuel app today and start planning those futures bets. So this is pretty interesting with what's going on, because the narrative that's going around college football right now is that Ole Miss is going to struggle. Ole Miss is not good enough. Ole Miss is not a very good team, yada, yada, yada. And that's because the box score for the Kentucky Wildcats game was 30-28, and you're supposed to blow out Kentucky early in the season if you are actually a good team. Never mind the Georgia Bulldogs from a year ago, but that's my point. Mark Stoops has been the kryptonite of Lane Kiffin. Heck, that game went exactly like I called it to go. If you listened to this show during the week, you knew exactly what could possibly happen in that game and how to get around it. You got the problem and you got the solution all in one broadcast. Well, everybody looks at the box score and it's like, wow, Kentucky's up 10-0 in the second quarter on Ole Miss. Ole Miss is garbage, man. That's totally garbage, man. I don't know why I drifted off into hippie and Tommy Chong, but whatever. It's a situation to where national media types who do not have the time to watch all these games, they have to come up with opinions on absolutely everything, and they can't make it go. So narratives are getting established. And the narrative around Ole Miss right now is just they're not very good. And one of the things you're looking at is the betting lines are starting to come through. Ole Miss opened favored by 10.5 points, but the line has consistently dropped over the course of the last couple of days to the point where Ole Miss is now favored by 7.5 points, and the over-under has gone up. It's that situation, and it's because if you look at the boxes in the first quarter and slow starts, Ole Miss in each of their first two games had interceptions by Austin Simmons that led to bad first quarters and bad starts in both of the games. Now, make no mistake, one of these teams, if you get off to a bad start, will beat you. You can't do that. But neither of the teams that Ole Miss faced were good enough to do that. If you look at the second, third, and fourth quarter, the second quarter, Ole Miss is outscoring their opponents 35-13. The third quarter, 27-7. The fourth quarter, 24-3. I mean, it's not rocket science, everybody. It is the way this works out. This is a good defensive unit. If you want more information than that, the Ole Miss defense is giving up 14 first downs per game, but 15 points. That's usually something that is pretty linked together. But you're giving up less first downs in a game than you are points. That is because of the short fields that have been given to the other team at the beginning of the game. Ole Miss's pass defense has been pretty good this season. They're giving up about 140 yards per game. And to let you know, Georgia State played Memphis over the weekend. They threw for 340 yards in that game. I'm assuming there was a lot of screen passes and a lot of short stuff, and Hurst probably went off. But they had 340 yards passing in that game. Listen, Ole Miss's defense, they're only giving up 309 yards per game. Now, they have an explosive play problem, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But if you take the explosives out, the other team's running for 120, 130 yards per game. So do that. Take away the lone takeaway that they had. They have not had the explosives early in the season. There's a lot of stuff that can be cleaned up, but there's a lot of stuff to be really encouraged by. And that is like one of the things is they're only giving up a touchdown 2 out of every 7 trips into the red zone. Defense is bowing up pretty good and playing good football. Now, we talk about all of that and the narratives surrounding Ole Miss. It's absolutely absurd that you come up with the Ole Miss's crap narrative and they're going to struggle against Arkansas and in the SEC, or thinking they're going to go 6-6 or something like that. It's absolutely hilariously absurd because the numbers do not back that up. Yes, they've given up explosive plays. They gave up 5 explosive plays against Georgia State that was about 100 yards worth of rushing in those 5 plays. The rest of the game, they gave up 100 yards. They gave up 5 explosive plays against the Kentucky Wildcats, including one to Zach Calzada and one to the backup quarterback when he came in as well. But it was a little bit better than before. You tighten up the explosive plays, you start to get those explosives that you want, and you catch the ball when Taylor Green throws you the ball, you can win this game going away. But the national media, they don't want you to know that. They have their narratives in hand. They have their favorites already picked, and they're going to pick games no problem in this week. They're going to pick Ole Miss to struggle because Ole Miss struggled with Kentucky. That 30-23, they obviously must not be good, so Ole Miss is going to struggle with Kentucky, even though Ole Miss has the top running back in the SEC, the top wide receiver in the SEC, the quarterback that's ranked in the top 5 in the SEC in passing yardage. You have a defensive lineman in the top 5 in sacks. This Ole Miss team is statistically a lot better than they're getting credit for. And because of that, I think people are going to be surprised when they put it all together. When Ole Miss puts together a first quarter, when Austin Simmons gets good to go, and we'll talk about how that might happen as this week progresses, Ole Miss putting it together, you could have a 56-7 type SEC game. The defense is good enough. And now that Ole Miss has a running game and the weapons that they have at wide receiver, and if Austin Simmons gets comfortable and stops throwing those first quarter interceptions, they're going to be pretty good. I told you coming into this season has a chance to look a lot more like 2023 than 2024. And never mind the fact that Ole Miss went 11-1 or won 11 games in 2024. Or 2023, I apologize. This season means there's going to be closer games because the floor of the SEC has been raised. The ceiling has dropped down. Everything is starting to get a little bit more compressed. So you're going to have some tighter games. Ole Miss needs to win in the margins to ensure that the other teams can't get them. Arkansas is a better team than they were a year ago. Never mind the fact that Ole Miss won that game 63-31, and they broke records all over the field. Arkansas is a better team. You have a year 2 quarterback under Bobby Petrino. He's going to be better. There's a chance that this could be a shootout on Saturday. But that doesn't mean that Ole Miss is not the better team. That doesn't mean that Ole Miss shouldn't win this game. Ole Miss, honestly, should go 6-0 going to Athens, Georgia, based on where the game is played and the weapons they have on the field. That is where we're sitting right now, and nothing has been shown to this point by the Ole Miss Rebels that makes me think otherwise. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Ole Miss is a significantly better team than Arkansas. The national media are falling back on these slow starts over and over again to set up a narrative based on Ole Miss, and because of that, you get these absurd takes like Ole Miss is just not good. Thank you, Locked On Gamecocks host, for that one. Ole Miss just isn't very good. Yeah, that's awesome. And other people like that coming in is like trying to pile on because they want Ole Miss to be bad. After last year, when Ole Miss didn't make it, they're getting ready to pile on. They're getting excited about it. They're getting giddy to what they can do to the Ole Miss Rebels because Ole Miss, they need to get back to 6-6. They need to get back to 7-5. They need to know their role. They need to shut their mouth. That is the way the national media are looking at Ole Miss. That is not what the statistics say about Ole Miss. What the statistics say is the first quarter has been not good, and Ole Miss has shot themselves in the foot in the first quarter. The second, third, and fourth quarter, Ole Miss has been really good, to the point of, in the Kentucky game, outscoring the Kentucky Wildcats 30-13 over those three quarters. So we'll see exactly how that goes and where it lands. Listen, controlling explosive plays on the ground is absolutely paramount if Ole Miss wants to handle Arkansas. The Hogs thrive on chunk runs, and limiting those early is the key to keeping them behind the chains. So how does the Rebels slow this down in the Hog offense? It starts with disciplined gap control, tackling in space, and making sure linebackers don't overrun plays, right? Pretty simple stuff. And keeping the safeties disciplined enough to avoid giving up cutback lanes, and you've got the blueprint. We talk about all of that and other keys that Ole Miss needs to lock in on coming up next. You know, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard on every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost every season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move or be moved. And it's almost the weekend. It's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For Ole Miss, Harrison Wallace delivered in a big way. On 4th and 1, Ole Miss was down 10-0. Everything was going sideways for the Rebels. With the pressure on, he came through. No hesitation, no delay, with a 55-yard reception. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Harrison Wallace is on a streak that looks to continue Saturday versus Arkansas. And just like Harrison Wallace delivered the Ole Miss, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash streaks, you have every Saturday you order to stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep this streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period is through 11/18. Do us a favor and like and subscribe and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast or whatever audio podcatcher you're on and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but helps keep all of this free. If you want more, you can join the Insiders program on the subtext link down below. There's no trolls, a 14-day free trial, and the easiest way to cancel ever. And if it's not enough content for you to be happy, you can view it as a tip if you appreciate what all we do here for you. And don't forget to check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college or pro, is ready for you. So now let's turn full-throated into the Arkansas Razorback. We talked about the national media and how they were just making these absurd takes about Ole Miss being bad because they got off to a slow start against Kentucky and against Georgia State. Ole Miss is obviously a problem team. You know, whatever. It's fine. But looking at that, Ole Miss needs to stop the slow starts. It does need to stop. You can get away with it against Kentucky and against Georgia State. You can do that, but you need to shut it down. You need to start scoring in the first quarter. We talked about last season how the Lane Kiffin script was just fantastic. Ole Miss was going to start up 7-0 nearly every game because the script was going to be so good. Well, this year has been a little bit different. It just hasn't quite looked exactly the same, and it's taken on a little bit of time to get going. So whenever you look at the Arkansas Razorbacks, it gets to be a little bit interesting for the Rebels. Arkansas is the best offensive team that Ole Miss has faced this season. So a quick start is important. Listen, when you look at what Austin Simmons did in Kentucky, he ended up 13 of 24, 235 yards and 2 interceptions. Both of those interceptions in the first quarter, and both of them led to points for the Kentucky Wildcats. I think 30-yard short fields both time or so. Ole Miss's defense was kind of hung out to dry a little bit. For the season, he's a respectable 35 of 55, 576 yards, good enough for the top 5 in the Southeastern Conference, 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. It will be important for Ole Miss to get off to a quick start. You can't do the things that happened against the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, part of that, I think, needs to be some creativity in the run game. You need to figure out a way to get Kewan Lacey on the edge in space and get Arkansas's defensive linemen and defensive backs and linebackers moving sideline to sideline. Make them wear. Make the depth have to show at an early period of time, and that should open up the deeper passes down the field via play action. That in short passes, and you should be pretty good to go. This isn't Fayetteville, what Arkansas is walking into. This isn't where the ghost of Reynolds Razorback Stadium sits. This is Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi, where Ole Miss has had pretty good success against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, this has been the drunk uncle of games historically. Something weird absolutely happens in this football game, and I'm not going to mention specific plays because it'll just make Ole Miss fans sick. But that does exist from time to time. But don't listen to people say you can throw the records out the window. That's something the underdog says to try and kind of even the playing field a little bit. Now, one thing that I'm curious about is the explosives in the run defense. That must be kept at a minimum, as Bobby Petrino absolutely needs them for his pass game. Whenever he does play action, he can do it as well as anybody, and he is a master on the offense. But he needs the run game going for that to work. And over the last few times that Bobby Petrino has run across Pete Golding, Bobby Petrino has had success. In 2023, maybe, at Texas A&M in the second half, it took a blocked field goal at the end of the game, or Texas A&M was about to win that game. And Bobby Petrino in the second half made Max Johnson look like Tom Brady. It's one of those things. He was able to get the Ole Miss defense on skates, and because of that, you're in pretty good shape. We talk about this looking more like 2023 than 2024. That was 2023. So that matchup between Pete Golding and Bobby Petrino is worth remembering. Last season, Ole Miss had record players all over the field. Arkansas scored 31 points. A lot of that with a backup quarterback because Taylor Green got injured. Bobby Petrino has had success against Pete Golding. So at a minimum, I think this needs to be planned to be an offensive shootout. This is just going to be one of those things. If you can't get pressure on Taylor Green, don't let him run. Don't let him go crazy outside the pocket. But if you can get pressure on Green, you'll be all right. And when he throws you the ball, catch it, because he does throw the ball to the other team from time to time. And also, Ole Miss must play a clean game, because every turnover or penalty that kills a drive helps Arkansas be able to beat you. Listen, Ole Miss is significantly better than Arkansas. They are. It's just the way it is. But every time you turn the ball over, every time you do silly things that kill drives, Arkansas gets a little bit closer to where you could be. If you want to beat Arkansas, you need to be careful and be wary of what's going on. And one player, real quick, before we move on to the What to Watch For segment, that you need to keep an eye on is Princewill Umanmielen. He had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack against Kentucky. And he kind of started looking like he was getting ready to come into his own with a quarterback like Taylor Green, Umanmielen, Deshaun Womack, Santarin Perkins. All 3 will have massive roles to play. Perkins, I'm assuming, will be the spy most of the time in this game. but Arkansas's offense is absolutely the key in this football game as long as Ole Miss doesn't turn the ball over. So we'll see exactly what that looks like for the Rebels. Listen, our final segment, starting Saturday with a heavy dose of the run game and play action, that actually might be Lane Kiffin's best move against Arkansas. The Hogs defense has struggled when forced to respect both downhill runs and deep shots off play fakes, and that combination could get Austin Simmons the clean looks that he needs early. We'll dive into why establishing the ground game not only controls the tempo, but also opens up explosive plays downfield, plus other keys and what to watch as Ole Miss gets ready to lean against Arkansas. That's all coming up next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on the fantasy lineup. It's quick and easy, and the easiest way to add a little bit more energy every single Sunday. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is why there's Monarch Money. It is an all-in-one finance tool that helps you bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. All of this without ever touching a spreadsheet. I'm using Monarch to help minimize errors around there, minimize inefficiencies when it comes to investing, increasing my savings rate, easily reviewing finances with my financial partners or financial advisors, keeping a clear view of my own financial health week to week and long term. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use Locked On College. That's all one word at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. This game is traditionally the drunk uncle of the SEC schedule for Ole Miss and Arkansas, and probably everybody watching of it. It's kind of a lighter version of the Egg Bowl. So everybody enjoys all the weird stuff. I've made jokes all weekend about seeing somebody that's been dead for 30 years in the crowd, and you're like, okay, that just makes sense because of the Ole Miss Arkansas game. And it's true. There's been some very weird things that have happened in this football game. There was the hit that happened back in 1990. Of course, we know about 4th and 25. There's been stuff that just happens over and over and over again, and we've kind of gotten used to it. But that being said, I am not a person that believes that just because something was wacky before means it's going to be wacky right now. Wackiness is inherited. Wackiness is an expectation. If the expectation is normal or a blowout or a win, all of that, you're going to be able to put it behind you a little bit. And Arkansas is struggling right now because everybody in that state feels like they should be blowing out Ole Miss and Mississippi State every single year. That is how they feel in Arkansas. It's basically the lone state school, even though now they're playing Arkansas State apparently. But them losing to both State and Ole Miss, now they beat State pretty good a year ago, and they're probably going to beat them again pretty bad, lets you kind of know what's going on. But they expect to win this game is the point. Now, something you need to watch for in this game that not necessarily keys, but something that could be important. After Saturday, Ole Miss may be relying on the running game and play action, especially early in the game, as that might be the formula for this team moving forward. You protect the defense, you kick the ball, all of that stuff, and your talent just kind of wins out in the end. Should be interesting to see exactly what that looks like and how it goes. Listen, Taylon Green, the quarterback for the Arkansas Razorback, he will put the ball at risk from time to time. If you speed him up, catch the ball if it is thrown to you. If you have a chance at an interception, make it. Whenever you drop interceptions, that's like a first down, even if they haven't had one. It's a momentum thing. It's an exhale moment. If he throws the ball to you, catch it. And do not, under any circumstances whatsoever, give Arkansas a short field. That includes interceptions, fumbles, going for it, the whole 9 yards. Do not go for it on your side of the field under any circumstance. Make them drive. If you do that, you will be all right. Because Ole Miss has some weapons, believe it or not, to turn to in this game. Kewan Lacey was the Doak Walker Award Player of the Week. Had 28 carries, 138 yards, and a touchdown. And when he got out on the edge, he was pretty special. It's going to be nice to see him develop. Just a sophomore, everybody. He will be back next season as well. I'm pretty excited about what he can be moving forward and where he sits. And then there's our DoorDash Player of the Week, Harrison Wallace, who only had 4 catches, but it was 417 yards. There was a long catch on a post route. There was the 4th and 1 that you see in that picture right there that he picked up, turned in for 55 yards. Between him and Deuce Alexander, who right now is the number 2 weapon at the wide receiver position for Ole Miss because Caden Lee, for whatever reason, has not gotten on track at this point, and Deshaun Stribling has not gotten on track. And you have the tight ends that we're waiting to see if Luke Haas when and if he gets healthy, and if Caleb Odom's in the lineup and Daquan Wright, if he's back, how exactly that looks as well. But there's a lot of stuff for Ole Miss fans to watch for in this game. Not anything that's like, are we good type stuff, but stuff that's important for winning the game. Seriously. In the Kentucky game, if you listen to this show over the course of the week, you knew exactly what happened in the first quarter. You knew how to fix it, and you knew there was nothing to worry about. This game is a little bit different because offensively Arkansas is so good. So if you turn the ball over, if there is a carbon copy repeat of the Kentucky game, it won't be 10-0. It'll be 14-0. And maybe if there's a punt forced after that, it's 21-0 and the game's over. So you have to take care of the possessions. You have to honor them. You have to cherish them. If you can do that, you will be pretty good moving forward. If you don't, Arkansas will beat you. Arkansas can't win the game just straight up. You have to help, but it doesn't take much help for Arkansas to get there, if that makes sense. So we'll see exactly how that goes. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves in offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we are the front door of Ole Miss. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment to the show. It helps the show. It's totally free. Your support means the world to us. In another big moment for Locked On, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV are presenting College Football Kickoff. It's your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Howdy toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.